It's a mindset alignment. And I'm trying to tell you today, you need to align your mindset with how God sees you, with possibility, not just problems, with purpose, not just your past, with the opportunity, not just the obstacle. It's a game changer. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Man Up Podcast. I'm your host, Terry Gwaltney, and coming to you live today from the shores of Lake Michigan. Actually in South Haven, Michigan, coming off a super busy weekend. Actually, we have a super busy 2-week stretch here. We just had our first marriage retreat at Legacy Farm with David and Terry Sumlin. They were out of Houston, Texas. That was a great weekend. So if you didn't get an opportunity to come to that, be sure to follow us on the Legacy Farm Facebook. I encourage you to take a look at that. And there's a lot of the events that get posted on there. But that episode actually aired about 2 weeks ago, and that was the couple that we were interviewing. So anyway, busy weekend, great time. And at the time of this recording, we're just less than a week out, or almost a little over a week out, I guess I should say, to the Man Up Adventure Camp. So just super exciting time. I want to take a minute today, though, to talk to you about a subject that I think would benefit probably all of us, whether it's in our personal life or whether it's in our professional life. And this will be, I think I'm going to do this in a 2-part series. I don't know if they'll be consecutive week to week, back-to-back weeks, but I just know there's enough content here. I want to break it down in 2 sections. So we'll see how far we get today. But the title today is Mindset Alignment. And I want us to think and just break down those words just for a minute before we really get deep in this and try to unpack it. If you think about mindset, I mean, literally, if you broke that down, it's like your mind is set. I think all of us probably have preconceived mindsets that we have about certain people, certain situations, certain places. It's really, I mean, the definition of that is like a fixed mental attitude, or it's your disposition that predetermines our responses and our interpretations of certain situations. In other words, there are habits. You think about that. You have a certain mindset, probably with your wife in certain situations, with your colleagues at work, probably with your kids. And it's like many of these situations, our mindset is already like we've prejudged a situation based on previous experience. And sometimes we don't even give people, especially those that are closest to us, a real objective shake or fair shake, if I should say, because we're already going into that situation predetermining what you did, what you said, how you meant that, what your motive was, what your intention was, based on something you did in the past. So that's kind of mindset. And so we have these things that are already set in our minds that convince ourselves, like maybe they're things that we won't do. Like there's certain foods I am not going to try. That's my mindset. I'm not a seafood guy. And so I don't try any seafood. That was my wife when we first met. And the moment that I got her to try shrimp, it was downhill from there. You know, now like one of her favorite foods is the most expensive foods, which is, crab legs, and she loves lobster, and, it's endless. But she had a mindset because of how she grew up that she had never tried anything. So it was outside of her wheelhouse. I wonder how many mindsets that we have today, if we look through all the different compartments of our life, that hinder us from expanding our horizons, from trying new things, from having the courage to step out. But because of an old mindset, we've kind of boxed in ourselves with a limitation. You can kind of see probably where I'm going with this today. If you took the second word, alignment, that the literal definition of that, it's the act of aligning or being aligned. So in other words, I'm either aligned in my life, in the right thinking, in my right mindset, or I should be being aligned. And here's what I want to connect. If if you look at that word alignment, it's the definition is the proper positioning, or it says it's the state of the adjustment of parts that are in relation to each other. And what I want us to see is mindset alignment. What if our mindset aligned with God's line set for our lives? What if we seen in the mirror what God sees in the mirror? What if our thinking began to align with who we've become instead of being trapped in who we used to be? This is good this morning. I hope you buy into this, because some of you feel very frustrated in the fact that, you know what, I say I'm a Christian, but I struggle with so many of the things that I struggled with before I was a Christian. So I don't know if maybe I'm not a Christian. Maybe I don't think a Christian should have some of these thoughts that I have. I don't think I should have some of the same old habits. Listen, the Bible tells us that when you become a Christian, you literally, spiritually anyway, become born again. And it said you become a new creation that was inside of Christ Jesus. Okay? Old things passed away, all things become new. So it was like being born. You went from death to life, spiritual death to spiritual life. That happened instantaneously. Okay? You were adopted, and now you're a son or you're a daughter of the King. Nothing's going to change that. Not your performance, not your behavior, not what you think. That's just who you are. But there is a process of beginning to transform the way you think in your mind. And the Bible talks about it, that it comes from the Word. In other words, the Bible, which is God's roadmap. It's almost like, if you think about it, it's the instruction manual for your life that He's left behind for you. And He says, as you read that, it begins to change your thinking from how you were influenced before you were a Christian. Before, you may be influenced by where you went to school, by the group of people that you hung out with, by the television shows that you watched, by what culture said was okay. But then you begin, as a Christian, think, I feel like maybe that I shouldn't do that. Well, that's the Holy Spirit inside of you convicting you that, like, you can do better. You have a higher standard. You're now one of my children. And so He begins to shape and transform our mindset to align with His mindset, not the mindset that is in the world, because it has a value system, and then God has a value system, and many times they're clashing. Does that make sense? So think about your car. We're a bunch of dudes on here today. Think about going out and buying a $1,500 set of tires, and you put on your truck, and you find out 3 months later that they're wearing unevenly, that it's not riding the way it should. You're looking at it like, what is going on? Many times what happens is when the front end of your vehicle is not aligned the way it's supposed to be, then what happens is the tires begin to wear at an irregular pattern, which means they don't last as long. The ride is not near as comfortable. And if left to itself over a longer period of time, literally it can cause other mechanical damage to happen, which can become very costly in your journey. We'll talk more about that later, but I want you to get that analogy in your head, because some of us have set out and we're living our lives, but we're misaligned with the purpose for which we were created. We're misaligned in our mindset because we see ourselves through our past failures, through our past mistakes. Maybe we're even seeing them now through we're interpreting our mindset between what I did yesterday, or a thought that I had in my head today that's just, man, that wasn't very godly. My response wasn't very godly. That look I just gave wasn't very godly. What I watched wasn't very godly. And we're not seeing it through the mindset of who God says we are. Listen, at the end of the day, we're still humans. We're fallible. We're flawed. We make mistakes. Doesn't change who we are. It also doesn't excuse the fact that we need to grow into uh, his image. In other words, I want to grow up and be more like him. Think about your kids. If some of you have kids, there's that magical age in their life where their hero, who they want to be like, is their dad. They want to drink coffee like he drinks coffee. They want to eat things that he eats. They want to go places he goes. They want to dress like you dress. So as a believer, our goal should be, even though we're spiritually immature and small in a lot of ways, in our growth, spiritual growth, we still want to be like our hero. We're still striving to be like our Heavenly Father. And so that's the model. And our mindsets need to begin to align with what he sees for us, which will give us greater courage and strength to become who we were really created to be. So what I'd like to do today is hopefully help change a little bit more of your perception of how you see yourself. I want you to see beyond this particular uh, juncture in your life, this particular season in your life, this mile marker. You think about a journey as you're traveling, you look at mile markers and they tell you how far away you are from something, but they also tell you how far you've came from where you started. And some of you get overwhelmed by how much further you have to go, and it's frustrating. When a lot of times you need to remind yourself as well as how far you've already came. Yeah, we've got a long way to go, but you know what? We're a long way from where we started. You're not the same person that you used to be. You're a gentler person. You're a kinder person. You don't just think about yourself all the time. Oh, you still have selfish tendencies, but it's not just all about you anymore. You're not the best husband that you could be, but you're a better husband. You're not maybe the best father you could be yet, but you're a better father than what you used to be. And so pay attention to the mile markers and don't get overwhelmed by how far you still have to go. Sometimes it doesn't hurt to encourage yourself by how far you've already came. So I want you to see beyond the mile marker that you're at today. I want to help you begin to align your mindset with his vision for your life so you can live out the most authentic version of yourself. What version is that? It's the version that God created you to be. It's also the one you fully haven't discovered yet. Have you ever heard the statement that perception is your reality? So true. In other words, it might not be what is the truth, but if I believe it, I act like it's the truth. And if I believe it long enough, it becomes my reality. So in other words, I think it's real. Hey guys, if you want to hear more, if you want to work on that mindset alignment, join us at camp, October 25th through the 27th. If you've not got a ticket, it's not too late. This is the kind of stuff that we're going to talk about. This is the kind of stuff that we're going to challenge other men to do. There's just something about when we all get together and you see somebody else accomplishing it, or you hear maybe from somebody else that deals with the same struggle that you've got, it just really begins to give you hope that I don't have to quit, that I can become more, I can have more, I can do more. So listen, there's a lot of things pulling at your time. I promise you, this Friday night through a Sunday at noon will be an investment that literally could impact your life and your family's life for years to come. I encourage you, hop online, go to manupventurecamp.com, go to our Facebook. It's all over social media. Don't hear about this from somebody else. I think this is the weekend that I really needed. I wish I would have went. Don't let that be you. We'll see you at the Man Up Adventure Camp, October 25th through 27th. Talk to you then. And how you view things really does determine how you do things. So that is so true. So your perception in large part is made up of your life experience so far. Think about that. The perception you have about yourself, different roles you play at work, the different roles you play at home. In large part, that perception is made up of your life experience so far, which leads you to a belief about the way things are and maybe the things They'll always be that way in your life. That's perception. Think about that for a moment. If you do, I think you'll agree with me. Listen to what I'm about to say. Your past failures and successes, they're all a part of who you are, but they don't get to decide who you'll become. So there's no denying our past. There's no denying our failures. There's no denying our successes. They've helped shape you to who you are today, good, better, or indifferent. But irregardless, they don't get to decide who you're going to become. So your mindset has to be aligned with what God has for you, not just what you've been through. See, only God can see past the personality that me and you have displayed so far. He can see past our behavior, past our circumstances that you've experienced that help shape today's version of you, all the way back to the person He really created you to be. And I'm going to tell you some stuff now that's kind of be mind-blowing, one of those moments. God has known you since before you were born. Now, that's very hard for us to grasp. In fact, it sounds so spiritual and like a Bible verse that we skip over it. But it can be mind-blowing. God knew you before you were born. So listen, what's a mystery to us is already history to Him. He knows what He put in you, and He knows what He's calling out of you. This is comforting. I remember thinking this the first time. God will never ask you to do something that He's not equipping you to do. Doesn't mean you'll have to do it in your own ability, because He generally asks us to do things that are outside of our ability, that requires His help. But He's not going to ask you to do something that He's not going to equip you to be able to do. Remember the story of the prophet Jeremiah? This one is a fascinating one. When God first called him, He had to convince him. He had to convince him that he had what it took for this prophetic ministry He was calling him to. You see, Jeremiah was having a tough time seeing beyond the person he had been up to this point in his life. Have you ever been there? Have you ever been there where I know what I feel like you're asking me to do, but I can't see beyond who I've already been. I'm not qualified for this. I don't have enough experience for this. Man, I've already botched this up, God. Do you know who you're talking to here? We could spend the next days talking about the kind of people that God used that could have said all the same things that I just said, had all the same excuses. God said, this is what He said to Jeremiah. He said, listen, before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. He said, I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. In other words, Jeremiah is trying to argue with God on why he's not qualified to do what God is asking him to do. And God is saying, listen, Jeremiah, this is the whole reason why I created you. This has been a mystery to you. It's already history to me. In other words, this is why I put you here on the earth. I've already prepared you to do this. So why don't you just trust me? What was the problem? I think we could interchange our names in here and we could say, well, Shane or John, Caleb, Josh or Daniel or whoever. But Jeremiah said he didn't see himself as a prophet. He was too young. He was too weak. He was too scared. Maybe you can't see yourself as a Christian, at least a good one, whatever that means in your mind. Or maybe you can't see yourself as a good husband or a good dad or a good leader. Listen to what God told Jeremiah. He said, I knew you before. Think about that. Before. Again, it's kind of one of those mind-blowing moments. He knew Jeremiah before he was born. He knew Jeremiah before the world heard him, before people mocked him. He knew him before he was afraid, before the fear had silenced him. See, God knew the real Jeremiah because He created him. He said, listen to me. I imagined you. I formed you. I created you. I set you apart. I appointed you, and I'm going to be with you. In other words, Jeremiah, you were created for this moment. Now lean into it. Step into it. What more do you need? You see, when Jeremiah believed that, it changed everything. And it'll do the same thing for you when you begin to believe it. Some of you are sitting right now at the precipice of a monumental moment in your life. And you think this is too overwhelming. I'm unqualified. I can't do this. I've tried this before. It didn't work. This is not my strength. This is not my gifting. I need to cheer somebody else on. You can go on and on with all these excuses when God's saying, this is your moment. This is what I created you for. Lean into it. Step into it. You were created for this. And when you begin to step into that and you begin to get that mindset alignment, it's amazing what can happen. So here's my question to you. Is it time for a mindset alignment in your life? Am I talking to you, Kim? Am I talking to you, Daniel? Who am I talking to this morning? What stories have you committed to that have become your excuses, your limitations? Why do you keep arguing for those? What do you mean? That sounds stupid. Yeah, it is kind of, if you think about it. Why would we argue and justify all the reasons why we can't do something when we could? What stories have you believed? Well, I tried that twice and I was horrible. I stumbled over my words. I was so nervous. I cried all the time. I had stage fright. I talked for 30 seconds. I talked for 3 hours and still said nothing. Quit fighting for what you don't want to keep, which is your limitation. So listen, there's basically two ways to approach any challenge that you have in your life, whether it's at work or whether it's at home. One way is you focus on all the reasons why you can't do it, and it justifies you not moving. It's kind of a comfortable place for some of us. We've convinced ourselves. And at least we may not be happy with what we can't do, and I may not be satisfied with it, but at least I know what I'm getting. The other way is you focus on all the reasons why you can do it. So here's my question for you. Which do you tend to do more? What's your natural default? What's your habit? I find it interesting that many people choose option one when they're facing anything that's challenging in their life. In other words, they begin to run through the litany of reasons why they can't do it. Opportunity is knocking, but I can't walk through that door for all these reasons. What's interesting is if you think about it, you probably find yourself telling yourself the same reasons over and over and over again. They spend so much of their time and energy focusing on why they can't do it. What's crazy is when it comes to focus, it's whatever you're focused on is all that you tend to see. In other words, it's like everything else is muted out. But that one thing you're focusing on is the only thing you can see. So instead of seeing the opportunity and how it could impact and change your life and the people that are around you, if you actually did whatever this was, your focus is on those handful of things that tell you why you can't do it and why it's been so difficult in the past. Tell yourself stories to believe, this is always the way it's been. So your history prevents you from stepping into your destiny. Give you an example. You're presented with this amazing opportunity. What questions would you ask yourself? Am I ready for this next level? Am I going to be enough? Does it sound like you? Will I be able to keep up? Or what if I make this an investment and it doesn't work? What if I ask her out and she says no? What if I tell her I'm going to change and she just laughs at me and mocks me? What if? See, it's real easy to be focused on your perceived limits rather than focus on what's possible with your new opportunity. What kind of impact could I create with this new opportunity? Oh, there's a difference in thinking. See, sometimes we argue for our limitations because we believe that we can't be or have something that we want because of an excuse we've made. I think it's amazing how we become our excuses, isn't it? We can have excuses for so long that they're self-fulfilling, and we kind of become our excuse. See, where your thoughts go is kind of where your energy flows. It's where you put your time, your attention, your talents. If I don't see myself succeeding in an area, I'm not wholeheartedly even going to try in that area. If I can't see myself as physically fit, I'm not going to waste a bunch of time, on a diet plan, a fitness plan, healthy eating, organic food. Why would I? I can't see myself ever succeeding in that. So I'm not going to put the time and the energy in to try to make that happen. Now, historically, maybe I hadn't been able to do that very well. Maybe, I've been unfit for a period of time and not been healthy or making healthy choices. But the moment that mindset begins to shift, now I have the energy and the willpower and the determination and the desire to do something that I want because I can see myself doing it, becoming that, and seeing the fruit and the result of that. It's a mindset alignment. I'm trying to tell you today, you need to align your mindset with how God sees you, with possibility, not just problems, with purpose, not just your past, with the opportunity, not just the obstacle. It's a game changer. Maybe you find yourself saying, you know what, I don't have enough money. Or maybe this sounds like you, I won't make money doing that. Things are out of my control. I don't have enough experience. Bob is out to get me. My boss is out to get me. Wanda's out to get me. My ex-wife's out to get me. I had a rough childhood. The economy's bad. I don't have the right connections. I'm too old to even try that. I'm too young. Who do I think I am to even attempt that? My dad's not very supportive. My was always unsupportive. My boss is unsupportive. My wife doesn't support anything I do. I have the worst luck. I'm not smart enough. I failed before. What if I fail again? Are these the excuses that run through your head? When opportunity presents itself for change, for your life to become better, for you to step through a door of opportunity, does this sound like you? Why do we do this? Well, I think sometimes limiting ourselves feels safer than believing in ourselves. Oh, that stung a little bit, didn't it? Because sometimes limiting ourselves feels safer than believing in ourselves. At least if I limit myself, I know what I'm going to get. But what if I believed in myself? I don't know. I may have to do things that are uncomfortable. I may have to ask for some help. I may have to push through some hard places. That may take me longer than what I want to. I may have to sacrifice. So we fabricate these arguments to prove why we can't do the very things God created and empowered us to do. Those arguments don't protect you. They limit you. They may feel comfortable because they're familiar. Trust me, they're not your friends, and they are not moving you forward. They're not moving you closer to your goals. They're not moving you forward to becoming the person you were created to be. Can't be dominated by limitation thinking. I think I'm going to pause there. I'm going to bring it back up. Mindset alignment. Is your current mindset in the area that you're wanting to see growth in? And what is the area I want to see growth in? It's probably the one that I feel like I have a deficit in. If it's, I feel like I do great at work, and then I come home and I don't know how to do this husband thing very good. I know I don't do very good because my wife tells me all the time, you're not very good at this. And most of our conversations are about how I screwed something up. And so that's an area that you're wanting to grow in. Are you going to roll up your sleeves? Are you going to find somebody that's doing it better than you? Are you going to find a resource like a podcast like this and listen to it where somebody can maybe encourage you and challenge you? Are you going to go to your pastor or a small group, and try to figure out, I need some help in this? Are you going to look for a mentor or a coach? Or are you just going to go back to your old limitations, your own mindset? My dad wasn't very good at this either. In fact, I'm better than he was. She ought to be thankful she's not married to him, and come up with an excuse to justify staying where you're at. Are your limitations shouting louder at you than your potential? Because I promise you this, you're not going to move past it until you see yourself past it. So here's my challenge for you this week. See yourself as a better dad. See yourself as a better husband. See yourself as a better spiritual leader in your household. See yourself as a better employee. What about this? See yourself as a better boss, those people that you're leading. See yourself as a better example. Let your potential shout louder at you than those limitations that seem to scream at you, telling you why you can't do it, why you'll never be that, why you'll never have that. Shift maybe 180 degrees and quit spending all your time living your life through the lens of a rearview mirror. Flip around, look out what's in front of you. You haven't been there before. Yeah, it could be a little scary. But is it time for a landscape change? Isn't there part of you that's still a pioneer on the inside that wants to explore new things, that wants to see something new, that wants to become a better version of you? I think there is. You can't be dominated by limitation thinking anymore. You were created for more than that. No pun intended, but I think it's time for you to man up. Listen, I hope you pulled something out of this today. We'll come back. We'll tie this up in a bow. We'll do another episode. I think there's a lot to this. I just wanted to challenge you to think today. I wanted to challenge you to see beyond where you're at and where you could be. I wanted you to know there's somebody else out here that believes in you. And there's probably somebody at home believes in you too, even if they don't tell you that much. Or maybe they are telling you, you've not been paying attention. Listen, guys, remember, legacy is not so much what you leave to people, but it's what you leave in them. I'll see you next time on the Man Up Podcast. Hey, Terry Gwaltney here from the Man Up Podcast. Listen, I just want to tell you how much we appreciate you supporting the podcast, listening to it. We hope it's adding a ton of value to your life. Also want to ask you to do us a favor. If you could like and share this podcast on wherever you consume your social media content, whether that be YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, we would appreciate it. It just helps us get the word out so we can help more people. And maybe you've never experienced the Man Up Adventure Camp that we do in October. You can check out our Facebook or our website, manup-camp.com. Once again, I want to thank you for listening to the Man Up Podcast, and we'll see you soon.